for some reason, after a few months, out of nowhere, we just started, like, having sex.
Wait. What? Since the resort, you and Natalie have had sex?
Yeah, numerous times.
It was pity sex, like after breakup pity sex.
Clearly, breakups don't mean much anymore, do they? So let's recap what went on the tell-all, aside from the whole Jasmine and Rob drama. Now, we join the couples, as always, as they're entering the studio, and special mention to Brandon and Julia and their matching coats. And then comes Florian and Stacey. Now, we know that at this point, at the time of recording, they are still married, but things aren't going well.
Since I left the resort with Stacey, everything coming like kind of like same different way, you know.
Now, whatever new tricks they might have learnt from the therapist at the resort, since returning home, it seems like everything has gone downhill fast. You see, in a recent interview with People magazine from March 2025, Stacey heavily implied that she and Florian had separated. A lot has changed, she says. Quote, Florian's doing new things and I wish him all the best. Like, that sounds pretty final, doesn't it? I think we can say with some confidence that in real time, in real life, these two are no more. But with that in mind, back to the tell-all, and naturally, Sophie and Rob have shown up separately. But more surprisingly, especially considering he was sliding into Sophie's DMs, Rob and Josh arrived together.
Luck in there. I think you might need it more than I do. We'll see about that. Ooh, ain't nothing a bad boy ain't been through before, though.
Ah yes, the bad boys. You may of course recall that Rob, Josh and Jamal of all people have formed some kind of 90 Day Fiance boy band. The trio have made a number of videos together, they call themselves the 90 Day Bad Boys, and they even have a group Instagram page where they're available for bookings, and most recently have done a sponsored post for Calvin Klein. So given how Josh was trying to get close to his wife, how exactly did this friendship come about?
Even though Josh and I didn't know each other and there was some slightly bad blood because he was kind of low-key hitting on Sophie a little bit, now we're friends.
Okay, I guess. Now, with the third member of their boy band, Jamal, not here, the group adopt a temporary member for today, Florian. And it seems like Florian and Josh have a budding bromance going on as well. One that, by all accounts, Florian's wife is a little bit worried about.
When we go out, Stacey calls me. She's like, you watch him, Josh. You watch him. I'm like the single guy, and she's telling me to watch Florian. I'm like, okay, I got you. I watch him. Don't worry.
Ha ha, how funny. I mean, there's nothing more hilarious than a stressed out wife whose husband has already cheated on her, worrying that he might cheat again, right? Now, Florian opens up to the bad boys about how he and his wife still don't have good communication. She still doesn't trust me when I go out, he tells them. And it's at this point that Natalie arrives.
I have a lot of news to say, and I feel like it's a great time for me to tell all, on tell all. Josh owes me an apology, honestly.
Wow, this breakup looks good on Natalie. She's glowing. She looks great. Who would have thought it, hey? No longer chasing after a man who isn't into her has had a very noticeable effect on her. But for as much as Natalie's newfound confidence is oozing, one thing hasn't changed. She still hasn't learned how to be a girl's girl. She's still a lot closer to the boys than she is to the girls. Whatever happens today, I'm on your side, she tells both Brandon and Rob.
You know those people who have a doll going after the hand?
Puppet.
Yeah, puppet, yeah. So she does like that to you.
Yeah.
You know what I want to do? I want to come with scissors and do like this.
I mean, look, she's not wrong, per se. As bad as Rob was, Sophie was also very manipulative. But isn't it interesting how quickly Natalie has forgotten who was on her side, who it was who was comforting her after Josh dumped her? Let's not forget, while Sophie was there telling her that she deserved better, the guys were all laughing at her behind her back. Still, that doesn't seem to matter much to Natalie.
And with your looks, you could date any girl, like...
Tell her that. She thinks she's the best I could ever do, and I'm gonna be alone forever if I'm not with her.
No, guess what? It's not true.
Is is Natalie flirting with Rob here? Like, Sophie was suspicious of Natalie during the last resort. She did claim that Natalie was flirting with him and touching Rob inappropriately. So let's just get this straight. Natalie's into Rob, Rob's besties with Josh, Josh is into Sophie, and Sophie and Natalie don't get along. Right, you can see how that's not toxic at all. Now, as for Josh and Natalie, well, it's very obvious that there's not much respect between them. Not only is Josh clowning around and pretending to be scared of her, but he also says this.
If Natalie and Sophie end up going at it, like, I'm not gonna be there to have Natalie's back.
Are you on your side?
Sophie and we're fine now, we're friends, you know, maybe I'll stick up for Sophie.
Something tells me Natalie isn't going to get that apology that she's after from Josh. But as we catch up with Sophie, we find out that she and Rob haven't had the clean break that we were all praying for. Of course not. Nothing's ever simple with these two. Even after breaking up, and let's not forget, even after Rob rejected Sophie's plea at the recommitment ceremony to stay in her life, it turns out he has still stayed in her life. They have still been in touch.
It's not like the resort ended and we're both just like, you. Like, no, there's still real feelings. You can't really turn them off. And yeah, it's still hard.
Now, of course, feelings aren't just gonna disappear. She loved him, she married him, he was her husband after all. But if Sophie's the one that dumped Rob, right, if she's the one that's decided she wants to move on and be with someone else, she needs to respect herself and him and leave him alone. They both need their own space to be able to get on with their lives independently. But unfortunately, by the sounds of things, despite the split, Sophie is still clinging on to Rob. She's not willing to let him go or allow him to move on from her.
It should be a lot less
stress.
like where you come in and you really don't know the people. Yeah.
You're such a good mom.
Just being nosy.
The casual touching? Yeah, Sophie knows exactly what she's doing, and even Brandon and Julia can see it. Julia actually calls it out. She says she hasn't seen you in a long time, and look at her, she just wants to touch you. Yeah, brings you back to what Natalie said about Sophie controlling Rob like a puppet, doesn't it? Now that Sophie no longer has Rob, she suddenly wants him again, or at the very least, she doesn't want anyone else to have him.
She walked away from me and I'm trying to move on. And then she's acting like, you know, she's acting pretty sweet towards me. And it's just kind of like, it's a little confusing.
I mean, you can understand why this is confusing as hell for Rob. But with all that said, finally, the time has come for the tell-all to begin. Now, this year, there's a new seating arrangement. The men and the women have been separated. And to kick things off, Sean begins by catching up with everyone, starting first with Natalie and Josh.
At the moment, we're not really talking.
We're not friends. We parted badly, ugly, and it's something that just I don't see a point even talking about.
Something has happened here between Natalie and Josh, but sensing the reluctance to talk about it, at least so soon into the tell-all, Sean moves on to Stacey and Florian. Now, when asked how they've been since filming ended, they tell us what I think we could have all guessed anyway.
Obviously, a lot of time has passed since then, and I kind of feel like we're going back to our old patterns.
The currency, up and down, depends the day, you know?
I think it was obvious for all to see during their time at the resort that they were just papering over the cracks. Sure, they may have agreed to recommit to one another, but deep down you could sense that Stacey really wasn't sure. Her gut instinct was that things hadn't really changed, and she turned out to be right. Now, as for Brandon and Julia, when it's their turn to tell everyone how they've been, Brandon reveals that Julia hasn't kept her end of the bargain. As of yet, she hasn't gone to go and get a second opinion about her fertility. And as for the quietest members of the group, Ari and Binny, they reveal that they've yet to start on the paperwork to get an official divorce. So with everyone else out of the way, it's now time for Rob and Sophie to explain what's happened to them. And just look at the pair of them. They can't stop giggling whenever they look at each other.
For some reason, after a few months, out of nowhere, we just started like having sex.
Wait, what?
Okay, so that explains a lot, doesn't it? No wonder Sophie was so touchy-feely. After almost a year of not wanting to have sex with Rob, this breakup seems to have liberated Sophie. Like, there seems to be a big psychological shift in her. Maybe now that she doesn't feel like he's cheating on her, maybe now she can actually be attracted to him again. But even with intimacy back on the table, that doesn't mean that her and Rob are back together. In fact, if you've been following either of them on social media, you'll know that things got very messy after this tell-all was recorded. Sophie made some very serious accusations about Rob, accusations that YouTube doesn't like me talking about. They instantly take down my videos or demonetize them. But in addition to that, the DA, let's call them DA accusations, in addition to those, and also in addition to accusing her husband of cheating on her with a man, rumours have also been spreading that she is now dating, or at least went on a few dates, with Chantel's ex, Pedro. Now, again, stepping away from the present day and going back to the tell-all, after Rob and Sophie's reveal, Josh seizes the moment and tries to make this all about himself.
As me and Rob were really close, and, I knew that Rob and Sophie were together intimately, as well as Natalie and I have been numerous times.
What is it with Josh? There's something about a middle-aged man boasting about having sex that just gives off huge loser vibes. Look, Natalie obviously didn't want to talk about that earlier, right? And yet here Josh is in a segment that's not even related to him. No one was even talking to him, and yet here he is jumping in with that information, trying to, in a bizarre way, grab the spotlight for himself. Look at me, it's not only Rob that's having sex with his ex, it's me too. And I think it's hilarious how Natalie responds to it. Listen to how she frames that sex.
Since the resort, you and Natalie have had sex.
Yeah, numerous times.
Whoa.
It was pity sex, after breakup pity sex.
Now, isn't it interesting? There's this weird dynamic going on here where there's all sorts of parallels between Josh's behaviour with Natalie and Sophie's behaviour with Rob. Both Josh and Sophie are exhibiting exactly the same behaviour, aren't they? Neither wants to let go of their partners, and yet neither is fully committed. What they're essentially doing is stringing the other person along. It's the same with Josh, and it's the same with Sophie. But, interestingly, while Rob hates that Sophie is doing it to him, he's now formed this budding bromance with Josh and doesn't mind that Josh is doing it to Natalie. Like, the double standard there is just insane. But as far as Natalie's concerned, right, she wants to make one thing very, very clear. Sure, there may be parallels, but there is one thing that's very different between our relationships.
Rob and Sophie and me and Josh, we are different. Rob loved Sophie, Josh never loved me. It's different.
Correct! Finally, she sees it. Like, Natalie appears to have come a long way from the girl who was crying over Josh every day. She, like Sophie, needs to draw a line under this and move on. Their respective relationships were toxic and they didn't work. But there is one unlikely couple on that stage that might actually have everything it takes to be a good partnership. Just look at them. Maybe Rob and Josh can be happy together one day.